Hello and welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session, we are going to see current affairs of 15th April 2025. So let's get started with our discussion. So before getting started, I want to give some small information for you guys. So if you open your today's newspaper, so most of the articles are related to Waqf Bill, and the second important topic is Ambedkar Jayanti. So I searched for a lot of time to get this at least 5 articles from our newspaper. So please keep that articles aside and see this article. It is enough for today. Okay, now let us see the first article. So first article is nothing but one interesting and important image that I find in the newspaper. So this image, it is about one dance form. So the name of that dance form is Rongali Bihu. Okay, it is nothing but Bihu. So let me write the keyword here, Bihu. So Bihu is a folk dance. So from state of Assam. Okay, so in your syllabus, where exactly you can fit this topic? Yes, it is part of GS paper 1 under art and culture. So in art and culture, you have this chapter called as dances. So in these dances, we have two types of dances. So one is your classical dances and second one is folk dances. So how many classical dances are there? We have 8 classical dances. For example, Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Kathak, Kathakali, Mohiniyattam, Satriya, Odissi, Manipuri. Okay, so in the folk dances, we have lots and lots of folk dances. So here you have to make notes for this folk dances. So you have to take your map, political map of India, and each and every state of our country, so which are the folk dances present. And you have to make a notes like state, okay, or else you can make notes in this tabular format, like state here, and next one is dance, folk dance names, and you have to see what are the special feature of that so and so dance. So if you are making notes in this way, then you will be having each and every dance form, especially in your book, and if you are getting any question regarding that, you can able to answer that. Okay, so now let us see some facts regarding this Bihu. So actually Bihu is one of the main festival of Assam state, and actually this Bihu is celebrated 3 times in a year. Very important. And actually this Rongali or Bohang Bihu, which is observed in month of April, and second one is Kongali or Kati Bihu, which is seen in the month of October, and next one is Bogali or Magh Bihu, which is seen in month of January. So you have to write all these 3 and which months. So on this thing also you may get a prelims based question, guys. You have to be very careful about these dances. And next, if you see the present Bihu, that is Rongali Bihu, so which is celebrated as Assamese New Year. Very important. Okay, so this Bohang Bihu dates, in which dates it will be celebrated? From April 13th to April 21st. And this season is also marking the harvest season in this Assam. Harvest or sowing season. And actually it marks the first day of Hindu solar calendar. And they will celebrate this festival by cooking some dishes like pita. It is nothing but rice cake. It is very much famous. And even traditional food made up of rice, coconut, they will be prepared on this day. And actually, if you see that image, so you can see the bright red color thing and as well as cream color saree they are wearing, right? So here, men and women, they will be in traditional Muga silk, very, very important. It is also called as golden silk attire for dances. Okay, that is the thing, that's it. And let us see the next article. So recently, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, we discussed one article that there is decreasing of repo rate by 25 basis points, right? So what happens because of decreasing of repo rate? Now loans become very, very easy, and even loans now become very cheap. Okay, so let us see that once again. So what was the article that we discussed? It is about repo rate. Okay, so this is important from your GS paper 3 under economy. In economy, you will be having a chapter called as banking and non-banking thing, right? So from that area, this article is important. So first of all, what is this repo rate? So we have RBI on one side. This is RBI, and we have other banks. So these are banks, for example. So these banks, they will go to this RBI and they'll get loans. Okay, RBI will be giving loans to these banks. On these loans, here now, these banks, they have to pay interest rates to RBI, right? So this interest rate is called as repo rate, RR. Okay, so what was there in the news? So in the news, it said that there is decreased repo rate. That means now banks, they have to pay less interest rate. Because of decreasing of repo rate, now these banks which got the loans from this RBI need to pay less interest rate. So because of this, the money which is presented with this banks now is more. They will be having more money. So whenever they are having more money, now these banks, they will provide more loans to the general public, right? So that is the thing which is there in the news now. So because of decreasing of repo rate by RBI by 25%, that is 25 basis points, 0.25%, 25 basis points. Now what happened? Now these banks will pay less interest to this RBI so that they will be having more money with them and they are going to give them more loans. Because of this, now loans become cheaper rate. So why cheaper? Because these banks, you are paying less interest rate to this RBI, right? So because of this, now these banks will also give loans to the public at low interest rate. So whenever they are having low interest rate means what happened? The loans will become cheaper now. So this is the concept which is given in that article. Okay, and you may get prelims based question regarding this repo rate, guys. And even you may get mains based question, that is analysis based question like, so what is the impact of decreasing of repo rate by 25 basis points of RBI? How it will lead to the economic growth or economic activity stimulation, like that also you may get question. So if I want to extend this further, yes, here there is increase in loans to publics and there is cheaper loans they are getting. So whenever they are getting loans, what they'll do? They'll do investments or they'll do some business or they will start some startups or they will become entrepreneurs. So because of this, what happened? There will be increased production. So because of increased production, obviously what happened? There is increasing of GDP. Okay, that is nothing but economic growth or economic activities increase which happens in our country. So this is the final outcome, guys. Okay, so this is about this topic, nothing more than that. And now let us see next article. Very, very important. See here the title. Land holding farmers doing non-farming activities helps efficiency. So land holding farmers means nothing but the farmers who are having land. So if they are having land, what they can do? They can do agriculture. Apart from that agriculture, they can also do some non-farming activities. What are those non-farming activities? They can go for maintaining of dairy. They can go for animal husbandry. They can go for aquaculture like fishes, prawns, like that. So because of doing that, what happened? There will be increasing of efficiency. And one more thing here is, so how many seasons we have? We have Rabi, we have Kharif, and we have Ziyad. So normally in our country, our agriculture is based on rainfall, right? That is nothing but rain-fed agriculture is more popular in our country because we don't have proper irrigation system, right? So because of this, do we have work throughout the year in this agriculture? No. That means we have the seasons where we have work and there are certain seasons where we don't have work. So in that seasons where we don't have work, they are called as lean seasons. In that seasons, they can migrate to our areas and they can do certain non-farming activities like unskilled labor work they can do. So that is the thing which mainly said here. And from which subject it is important? Okay, let me write here. So what is the keyword? Land farming can do non-land farming activities. Okay, it is talking about something regarding economy, right? So from GS paper 3, under economy, we can see this topic. And apart from that, we can also see this topic from GS paper 1 under geography. So from economy point of view, you can see about agriculture and its contribution to our GDP. And next you have to see about unemployment and its types. So we have structural unemployment, cyclical unemployment, frictional unemployment. So you have to see all those. And especially in this land or agriculture, we have disguised unemployment. Okay, subsistence unemployment. And from geography point of view, you can see this topic called as migration. And you have to collect data regarding migration in India. Okay. And next, you have to see about different seasons or agriculture and even irrigation related thing. Okay. So all these are very, very important things that you have to cover from this article, guys, which is relevant from your UPSC syllabus. Okay, now let us see the context. So if you see the context, actually the study which is mainly done based on the survey method. So actually recently a study had been done by some economists, and they did study about impact of multiple job holdings among land holding farmers and how it will be impacting labor efficiency on farms in India. That means mostly in agriculture, what is happening in our country is, so rather than the required number of labor, so entire family is doing that work and you're not having work throughout the year. So because of this, there is decreased labor efficiency. So because of this, the study had been done. Like if a landholder is doing other non-farming activities, how the labor efficiency will be there in our country. And actually they utilized the data from various states like Odisha, Maharashtra, Bihar between 2010 and 2014. And the study which mainly said about if you are engaging in non-farming activities, not only it will enhance labor efficiency, but even it will promote knowledge transfer among the farmers. So these two things which mainly studied or which are given by this study. So now let us see in detail regarding the details. Yes, if you are focusing on non-farming activities, then this study is saying that yes, there is a clear-cut relationship between non-farming employment, and that will also lead to increasing of labor efficiency on farms. By engaging in side jobs, farmers can also redistribute their time. For example, in some time, they will be getting free. They'll be not having that much work, right? So only during transplantation, only during sowing and harvesting time, they'll be having full time work. But in between, just they have to see whether the water is there or not, whether the proper growth of this plant is happening. Just monitoring is there. In that time of monitoring, they will be getting some enough time to do other side jobs. That is the thing which mainly set. And this one here is rural knowledge transfer mechanism. So in the lean times, whenever they're not going for any crop, so they can go for other areas. They can migrate from rural areas to urban areas. So we can also have diverse employment opportunities so that there will be the two-way knowledge transfer mechanism. When farmers, they migrate to other areas, they can often adopt to the new agriculture techniques, and also they can learn from their experiences and how they are interacting with the different environments. And this one here is, yes, employing data development analysis, which mainly says that, yes, there is also increasing of labor efficiency. And next one here is, this article is saying that, yes, government need to focus on promoting of non-farming activities. So whenever the farmers, they are not interested to go outside, so whenever government is increasing awareness, so why people are not going and not doing other jobs? Because they don't have the skill, they don't have the proper knowledge proper awareness. So government need to take some measures and policies to enhance opportunities, especially away from this agriculture sector, especially in these rural areas. Okay, and they have to improve the skills so that they can adapt in the diverse labor markets in the lean seasons. And even farmers, they will be having always financial constraints. So government need to address this credit constraints that many farmers, they will face a critical for enabling diversification into this non-agriculture ventures. For example, if they want to do this dairy, or like if they want to raise this animal husbandry, they need initially amount, right? So they can't get these animals with free of cost. So government need to provide some finances for diverting from farm towards non-farm things. And this one is government can give some subsidies for buying of animals and animal related equipment like that. So that what happens, there will be the shift of this land holding farmers towards non-land activities, non-farming activities also. That is the thing which mainly given, guys. And now let us see the next article, unnecessary change. So this article is talking about RTI Act of 2005. So already in our earlier class, we discussed this topic. Just let us have a revision for that. So this topic is important from your GS paper 2 under governance and as well as from GS paper 4 under ethics. Okay, let us see this. So why this RTI Act is in news? So we want to go for amendment for this RTI Act. So because of this, lots of the concerns which are raised. Okay, now let us see what this act is about. RTI is nothing but Right to Information Act. When it came into existence? In year 2005. The important aim of this act, it is to promote transparency and as well as accountability in the functioning of government. How? So now the citizens, they have the right to get information from the government. So what is the scope of this article? This act. So this act which applies to public authorities. It also includes government departments, different ministries and organizations that are substantially funded by the government. So if I want to get information from any of those organizations which are funded by government, yes, under RTI Act, I can file. I can get whatever information that I need. But there are some exemptions. So which information that I cannot get, even if I file this RTI is, yes, if that information which is leading to threat to our national security or which is breaching confidentiality, or if that information is harming the integrity of ongoing investigation. So that information that I can't get. But which information that I can get? Citizens, they have right to request information from public authorities, which includes right to access to records, right to access to documents and other information. And what is the time frame? So when I file this RTI, so within how many days I will be getting information. So actually government have to respond to the request of the people within 30 days. And this period can be extended to 45 days. Beyond that, there is no extension. And beyond that, if they are extending, they have to pay compensation to the people who file this RTI. Okay, so what are the concerns which are raised here? So actually when we make the changes to this RTI Act, so it may become very hard to access information which is important for the social audits, which is uncovering the misuse of public funds or corruption in the government. That is the one important concern which is raised by the people. And next one here is, yes, we cannot now verify government programs and we cannot ensure proper accountability and transparency. For example, ensuring of food ration distribution, how it is going on. We can't get proper details. And this one is original RTI Act, which balances privacy and as well as transparency. And because of this changing, what happens? There may be not giving the information which is asked by the people. So these are the things which are mainly raised. And now let us see very, very important article of the day. Yes, this is about stubble burning. So what does this title says? How governmentality exacerbates the problem of farmers' stubble burning. So actually the problem, especially in this Punjab and Haryana region, is stubble burning. Stubble is nothing but once when we go for harvesting of our crop, so whatever the waste that is there, that is called as paroli or stubble. So normally what we'll do with that waste, normally we will be collecting that waste and we'll be keeping under piles so that we can use some amount of this stubble as a fodder for animals normally. So what is happening in this Punjab and Haryana is the sowing season is very much near. They'll be not having even 10 to 15 days of time after the harvest to go for the next crop. So that time collecting of all these things, keeping as a pile, it is very difficult for the farmers. Rather than that, they'll go for simply burning of that. So actually, it happens during the winter season. Okay. So whenever the winter season is happening, what happened? There will be shifting of ITCs, that is tropical convergence zone, right? So because of this, what happens? The winds will be moving. So because of that, what happened? These winds which are moving from this Punjab and Haryana region, so they will be carrying this soot and PM 2.5 and this material which is causing like pollution to the air towards Delhi. So because of that, what happened? There is increasing of air pollution in Delhi, which is happening every year. That will be in the news in the month of especially November, December and January. Every year that will be there in the news. So actually, why the people they are going for this stubble burning this reason? So actually there is a one important study which had been done, and this study which said that because of certain government policies also, people are going for this growing of wheat and as well as paddy in that region. So because of that, this stubble burning is happening. Stubble burning is not a problem of farmers. So because of even some government policies also, that is leading to increasing of stubble burning day by day. So here what are the things that you have to see? So first, the stubble burning is important from your GS paper 3 under environment and ecology. So what are the things that you have to see? So you have to see what is the stubble burning is about, what is the meaning, and you have to see what are the causes of the stubble burning and what is the impact of the stubble burning, and you have to see what are the measures which are taken by the government already, and next you have to see way forward. Apart from this, you have to act. So which are the government policies? So which are the government policies which are also increasing this stubble burning in this Punjab and Haryana region? So you have to add that for your notes, guys. So now let us see this article. What are the things which are given here? So let us see that. So the context which says that the issue of stubble burning in India, especially in which state is happening, like Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and UP, so which had been reached critical levels. Okay, so because of this stubble burning, it is also leading to air pollution, especially during this winter months. And actually this study which had been conducted by Indian Institute of Management, that is IIM Amritsar, and they explored what are the problems from government side, like government policies which are leading to this stubble burning. So that is a new shade that you have to know. And if you see the details, the first one here is, yes, stubble burning is happening in which states? Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and UP. So because of this stubble burning, one thing it is very much clear that it is leading to air pollution. This is very much clear. Why? Because whenever we are burning something, what happens? It will release soot. It will release carbon dioxide emissions. It will release other things, pollutants, and even PM 2.5, PM 10 also had been released. So because of this, obviously it will cause air pollution. And next one here is, there is some correlation. So this research which mainly correlates that because of the stubble burning in this Punjab and Haryana region, it is causing air pollution in Delhi because of IT season, because of this winds which are carrying that to this Delhi. This is also very much clear because of PM 2.5 levels which is releasing. PM 2.5, it is nothing but particulate matter 2.5 which is released into atmosphere whenever there is burning of this stubble. And next one here is, the concept of governmentality reveals that how government practices create self-regulating behaviors on farmers often leads to suboptimal solutions. So it is saying that, yes, which are the government policies that are leading to this increasing of stubble burning that we are going to learn. So first one here is, you know that government is providing MSP, that is minimum support price. So minimum support price will be given to how many crops? 23 crops, including sugarcane, right? So here for 23 crops it is giving. So here, because of this MSP, so you know that. So farmers will be growing, try to grow that crops only, because they will be getting some, for sure, government will be purchasing that and they will be getting proper return. So that is the one thing. So especially because of this MSP, there is increasing of monocropping in this region. That is linked to the stubble burning issue. They're not going for diversification of crops. They're going for this growing of wheat or paddy. First important thing. And next one here is farmers are trapped in the cycle of dependency on middlemen and unsustainable practices. So here actually farmers in this region, so if they have to sell their paddy or wheat, they have to approach one middleman so that they can enter into this APMC markets or APMC mandis where they can sell their produce. But they are not getting proper support for selling. At least if they grow paddy or if they grow wheat, they can directly take one middleman, they can sell their produce in APMC markets. But what happens if they go for other growing crops? Will they get the middleman for that? That is a one important problem. So there is a lack of support for the crop diversification for them. And next one here is, they did some interviews for this people, farmers, and they said that yes, government is imposing some penalties, and as a central government, that is state government and central government, they are imposing penalties for burning of the stubble. But whatever the amount they are paying for that penalty is less compared to that of the alternatives. What are the alternatives they have? They have happy seeders and they have Pusa decomposers, they can use that. But the cost of this Pusa decomposer and as well as getting of happy seeders is more compared to that of whatever the fine they are paying for the government. So because of this, they think that yes, we can burn this and we can pay the fine. That is the next important thing. And next one here is, if you are comparing with the urban and rural areas, farmers, they are having certain policies which are favoring these industrial sectors in urban areas compared to that of these farmers who are living in the rural areas. Okay. So because of this also it is affecting the livelihoods and as well as sustainable practices in these rural areas. That is the thing which mainly said, guys. Okay, so these are some important things that you have to remember from this article point of view. And by this I'm concluding, guys. And if you really like this class, please hit the like button and please do share this class to your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to Rathod's IAS Academy.